Well, it's what an honor. It's really nice to be here, and especially among such an illustrious group. And the group, Beth and Joe and Phil from last year, all of which are good friends of mine. Really good company. Let me just start with a story. Some 85 years ago, it was 1931. It was May 13th, a really rainy Friday morning. Neil McElroy, who was then a 28-year-old advertising manager for Procter & Gamble's Camay soap, sat down and wrote on his Royal typewriter. Anybody remember Royal typewriters? You have this visual image. This guy sat down and he wrote a 3-page memo defending why he should hire 2 people to help him manage the Camay brand. He wrote that despite the fact that P&G had an edict that you could only write 1-page memos, no more. Neil McElroy went on and became a very successful CEO of Procter & Gamble, and still later the Secretary of Defense under Dwight Eisenhower, one of the few Secretary of Defenses we've had in the last century that did not start or activate a war. But probably the most significant thing that McElroy did was to write that memo, because that became the basis of the Procter & Gamble brand management system that was used for decades at firms all around the world. And that system really encountered a transformational change in around 1990, when brand equity emerged and the concept that brand is an asset and should be managed that way. And that fundamentally changed marketing, changed business. It changed who did marketing, it changed what marketing did, and it changed how marketing was measured. So under the McElroy system, marketing was done by middle management. But after brand as an asset started to take hold, it was done by top management. It was done by executives. And for the first time, marketing started to get a seat at the table. Quite amazing. And what marketing did, under McElroy's system, what you did was you analyzed sales. At those days, remember the days where they had Nielsen's every other month, and you'd analyze the sales of Nielsen, you find the problems, and you design some advertising and promotion to fix those problems. It was very tactical. But with brand equity, it was strategic. And it turned out marketing had a lot to bring to the strategy table. Things like consumer insights that led to strategy choices and new products. Things like segmentation strategies. Very strategic idea, and marketing owned that. And the value proposition, which is the basis of strategy, and marketing owned that. So they had a lot to bring to the strategy table. They were very comfortable there. And how marketing was measured under McElroy was measured by sales. They had weekly, bi-monthly, and monthly sales, and that was what was driving the whole analysis. But now, with brand equity, we had other measures that took center stage. Things like visibility and credibility, which is, to my mind, the basis of being relevant, being considered. Things like image that involve functional benefits and brand personality and organizational values and more. And brand loyalty, which is really the basis for me of a strong brand. Well, fast forward to today, what's going on? I see two trends that have been in existence for some time, but I think are going to accelerate as we look forward. The first trend is I see a shift from my brand is better than your brand marketing to subcategory competition. I did a lot of work in Japan in the last decade or so, and I got a hold of Japanese beer data for 40 years. And if you look at that data over 40 years, there's a striking thing that pops out at you. The market share trajectory of the major brands changed only 4 times in that 40-year period. And 3 of those times you can see the change was driven by the development of a whole new subcategory. Dry beer, Ichiban, and Hapashu. The fourth time, it was driven by the repositioning of two subcategories, lager and dry beer. Not brands, subcategories. So the dynamics of that whole 40-year period can be explained by subcategory competition. Really extraordinary. And then I started to look at other categories like water, like computers, like financial services, and the same kind of thing emerged. Every time there was a spike in sales or in market share, the explanation was subcategory development and competition, not brand competition. So what are the implications of that? Well, one is that companies have to engage in big innovation. And incremental innovation will not get you there. Because, you know, what I'm seeing is that the only way to grow, the only way, with some rare exceptions, the only way to grow is to develop innovation that creates must-haves in the marketplace that define new subcategories, and then manage those subcategories to win. So you've got to engage in some meaningful innovation that will really create a significant difference in the marketplace. And the other thing is that innovation doesn't have to be product-based. You don't have to have a Nike Plus or a Tesla. It can be based, you know, for example, on organizational values. Like Patagonia, for example, created an outdoor active wear company that has a passion for the environment. And that, for some consumers, is a must-have. They want to do business with that kind of a company. And it can be based on sort of repositioning the whole subcategory. So Pampers in China developed a really great product for that environment with the right price in 2007, and they didn't sell very many at all. And then they did research, and they found that customers weren't interested in dryness and convenience. What they were interested in is the quality of their baby's sleep. So Pampers repositioned the whole category. As a category, disposable diapers would help your baby sleep better, and in fact it would. And the sales of disposable diapers went from virtually zero in 2007 to $3 billion 7 years later. And Pampers owned most of that. So subcategory competition. The other thing about the implication of subcategory competition is that you've got to manage subcategories and not just brands. And it's a different mindset. It's not something marketing people are comfortable with. They're really comfortable with my brand is better than your brand. To focus on the competition. But the real way to grow is to make competition not relevant because they lack the must-haves that a segment of the market wants. And one of the important parts of that competition is to develop barriers to others to become relevant to your subcategory. And one of the ways to do that is to brand the innovation. You know, go look at the Uniqlo show. If you haven't been to Uniqlo in New York, you should go. It's an amazing store. And one of the things about Uniqlo is they invented this fabric that keeps you warm, and they branded it. They call it Heat Tech. Now, most other organizations, including probably Nike and Patagonia, are developing similar products, but they can never get the Heat Tech name because that's owned by Uniqlo. The second trend I see is a shift from communicating facts about the brand to focusing in on what I call a customer sweet spot. Now the sad reality is that customers really are not interested in your brand, your offering, or your firm. That's tragic, but almost always true. And yet that's what we want to do, right? We look at what are the objectives of our communication is to communicate facts about our brand offering or our firm. That's our instinct. And if we're going to pay money, that's the end objective, isn't it? But in today's day, like Trevor said, the company owns the brand or it owns the communication vehicles, and so it's not really possible to force these facts on people that aren't interested. And so instead, what I see people doing is trying to look at what I call the customer sweet spot. That means what the customer is interested in, how the customer spends his time, what the customer talks about, what the customer is passionate about. And then develop a content around that sweet spot and connect your brand to it as an active partner. So, customers really aren't interested in diapers. They're interested in baby care. So you see Pampers have this go-to site about baby care called Love, Play, and Sleep, or some variant of those three words. And people aren't interested in cosmetics, really. They're interested in beauty. So Sephora has Beauty Talk, which has a lot of interactive places where they can talk about beauty. Customers aren't really interested in farm equipment. They're interested in improving farming and improving their rural lifestyle. And so John Deere has a publication called Furrow, which millions of farmers read every quarter, that talks about just that. And that's incidentally 100 years old. What insight somebody had at John Deere a long time ago. And people aren't interested in hardware, but they are interested in building homes for the homeless. And so Home Depot is connected to Homes for Humanity that allows them to be part of that discussion. When you build content, what we've learned in marketing is that it's really more effective to talk about stories rather than facts. If you can turn a fact into a story, magical things happen. Again, it comes back to the point, what is the customer interested in? What will they attend to? And the answer is that it really helps to clothe facts and stories. You've all heard the story of Jared Fogle. He weighed 425 pounds. He was a student at Indiana, and he looked for courses that had large chairs. That's how he's choosing his courses. And he knew he had to reduce. He tried a lot of diets, nothing worked. And then he developed his own diet, the Subway diet. Every noon, he would eat a 6-inch turkey sub with baked chips. And every night, he ate a 12-inch veggie sub. And he lost 245 pounds. He weighed 180 pounds. What a success story. Now, compare hearing that story with me telling you, 7 facts about the Subway menu. Incidentally, I don't use slides, and I was thinking during Trevor's speech, thank God I didn't use slides. Can you imagine following his talk with my slides? Anyway, the stroke of brilliance, that was really, really one of my finest decisions. I love it when I make good decisions. So anyway, think of a list of 7 facts about the Subway memo, and think about the story of Jared. Which are you going to remember? It's a lot easier to remember the story. First of all, you have to remember only one thing. Second of all, when I tell you the story, you probably were listening, especially if you haven't heard it before, even if you had. Whereas if I give you facts, your eyes are going to glaze over after about number 1 or 2. And then if I asked you to repeat that a week from now, it's going to be even worse. And which will persuade more? If the problem with facts is you counter-argue. You say, yeah, but is it really, is it really organic? Is it, are these things really going to help you? Has anybody else lost weight? And so on. And besides, how come the lawyers let you talk about claims like that. Story, Jared 8 is a story. There's no counter-arguing. Well, how are you going to counter-argue against a story? And you discover for yourself what the point is. Somebody's not telling you the point. So stories really work. So anyway, that's kind of where we are. We start out with the Procter & Gamble model. We see it modified with the asset, brand as an asset concept that's getting introduced that changes who does marketing, what marketing does, and how marketing is measured. And we see these trends now, the trend toward the realization that creating subcategories is the way to grow, and you have to learn to do that and how to manage it. And we have to learn to communicate differently and resist the temptation to communicate facts about ourselves and look at what the customer sweet spot is and build content around that and use stories to do it. Well, I want to thank you for this recognition. There's a lot of people that were involved in the body of work I've created. Certainly, I've been associated with Profit for the last 15 years, and I'm very proud of that. They've really supported my work, especially Michael Dunn and my friend Scott Davis, that is a great thought leader in his own right. And before that, I was at Berkeley Haas School of Business, and they supported my work. And when I was at Haas, I got started in branding by working with Kevin Keller, who's here tonight, and we did some of the earliest academic studies on branding. And I'd like to thank my family, my wife Kay and Jennifer, Dan and Jolynn, that are the light of my life, and especially Jennifer, who continually challenges me to answer better questions and to answer them better. And to the New York AMA that have got this wonderful concept and an incredible process. And I'm so grateful to have been able to be part of it. Thanks.